Let's just pause for a moment right here at the start of this explainer. If you can, just close your eyes for a second. Think about the unseen silent currents that are literally shaping your reality every single day. I want you to imagine your life force as this vast winding river. You know, when it flows freely, there's abundance, right? There's vibrant health. There's this deep, beautiful connection to everything around you. But so often, we end up carrying these invisible weights, these frozen blocks that create dams in our potential, and suddenly we're living realities we never actually asked for. So today, we're going to learn how to observe our own waters and how to gently, finally thaw out the frozen parts of our inner landscape.
So I have to ask you, where in your own internal landscape has the current just stopped flowing? I really invite you to look inward right now. Just feel out the heavy places in your life. Maybe it's a constant, exhausting struggle with money or wealth. Maybe it's a recurring shadow hanging over your health, or these repetitive, frustrating loops you keep finding yourself in with relationships and love. Where do you feel stuck? We almost always look outside ourselves for the cause, right? We blame circumstances. But true, lasting transformation, it only really begins when we take a brave look at the frequency of our own inner waters.
And to put this into a completely physical perspective, think about this number 70. It's a profoundly simple biological truth. Our physical bodies are roughly 70% water. Why does that actually matter for us? Because every single thought you think, every judgment you make, and every single word you speak out loud ripples directly through your own physical substance. You are quite literally creating the environment of your own reality through the frequencies you're holding inside.
To really see this, consider what happens to plain tap water when it's frozen and observed under a microscope. It's absolutely fascinating. When water is exposed to harsh frequencies, things like hatred, anger, or severe judgment, the molecules freeze into these chaotic, fragmented, almost jagged shapes. But when that same water is exposed to love, gratitude, and joy, it forms these brilliant, perfectly symmetrical, beautiful crystalline stars. Now remember what we just said about your body. Your thoughts are constantly freezing or organizing the river inside of you. If you walk around calling yourself names, criticizing yourself all day, you are actively crystallizing your own inner waters into chaos.
This brings us to what we might call the weight of stones, because all those sinking, heavy emotions have a real, tangible density to them.
And you can see how different emotions literally carry different weights in our bodies. Lower emotional frequencies act just like heavy stones, sinking straight down to the riverbed of your life. Shame, for instance, is the absolute heaviest stone of all. It's that deeply buried, aching belief that we just aren't enough. Now, anger is slightly lighter. It's turbulent, it's messy, but at least it's moving energy, right? But as you start moving upward toward love, well, the energy becomes expansive. It gets incredibly light. It's the kind of energy capable of lifting up thousands of people around you.
The thing is, the conclusions we draw and the rigid judgments we hold on to, whether they're about ourselves or the rest of the world, literally block our potential. Every single locked-in judgment places a physical dam right in your inner landscape. It freezes a whole section of your river. If you hold on to this rigid, heavy belief that you simply aren't capable of something, you are severely, physically limiting what can actually flow into your reality.
And you know, these dams, they're rarely built with some big dramatic declaration. They're actually built with everyday, seemingly innocent whispers. Things like, well, I can't do this, or I'm just broke, or even just defaulting to a sigh and saying, I don't know. I actually knew someone once who, whenever she was asked what she truly desired in life, would instinctively start every single sentence with, I don't know. And she didn't realize it, but that phrase was a massive subconscious dam. It was meant to protect her from disappointment, sure, but it was actively severing her from her own deep intuition.
So, how do we start dismantling this? Well, it starts with welcoming our shadows. We have to trace where these heavy stones actually came from. Let's trace the journey of one of these inner blocks, because often the wildest part is that these heavy stones aren't even originally yours. Picture this, you're 2 years old. You hear a stressed caregiver say, we can't afford that. In that moment, you internalize that inherited fear as a universal absolute truth. It quietly becomes a subconscious dam. It silently governs your choices as an adult. But, and here's the truly beautiful part, when things seemingly go wrong in your adult life, that is just the block finally rising to the surface. It's your own soul bringing that shadow up to the light, practically begging for it to be witnessed and cleared.
Honestly, your soul loves you enough to bring your shadows out into the light. Think about that for a second. When you feel profoundly stuck, it is not the universe punishing you. It's really not. It is a deeply benevolent surfacing of old wounds. It's your soul gently whispering, hey, look at this dam we built so long ago to survive. We're safe now. Let's finally dismantle it.
And that dismantling? It brings us to the gentle thaw. This is exactly how we melt those deeply frozen blocks.
So how do we take down the dam? Well, definitely not with dynamite, right? We do it with warmth. It's an alchemy of thawing. First, just notice the limitation you're speaking out loud. Catch yourself the next time you say, I can't. Second, welcome that shadow without attaching any fear to it. Just observe it. Oh, there it is. Third, drop the judgment completely. Literally say to yourself, I delete that. And finally, reframe the moment with deep, radiant gratitude. When you do this, you instantly start shifting your internal waters from chaotic, jagged ice right back into a flowing, beautiful crystal.
Now, you might be wondering, what temperature melts these blocks the fastest? Without a doubt, it's the frequency of joy. Joy is literally the ultimate healing state. You absolutely cannot heal a heavy, burdened life by applying more heavy, burdened effort. It just doesn't work. If you truly want to heal, you have to go play. You have to invite in lightness. Joy elevates your vibration to such a high, beautiful state that things like guilt, shame, and fear simply cannot breathe in the same space. And when you're in that state of lightness, you start being able to ask these incredibly expansive questions. Perhaps the most powerful question you can ever ask is simply this: what would it take? Just ask, what would it take for this beautiful thing to happen in my life? You don't need to logically figure out the how. The how isn't your job right now. By asking from a place of open, childlike wonder, you create this massive clearing in your river for entirely new possibilities to just pour right in.
Because an unbound, truly free life is built on some very specific frequencies. It's heavily, heavily anchored in gratitude. It relies on a deep connection to oneness, feeling your energy expand past your physical room, past the earth, out into the infinite, quiet ocean of the universe. Add in some playful joy and a sincere willingness to just let go of your old judgments. When we replace those rigid, fearful conclusions with gratitude, we completely change our spiritual biology.
To maintain this beautiful flow day to day, try carrying a really simple mantra with you. Just say, I am so grateful and thankful for all the good flowing into my life. Whenever a harsh judgment creeps in, and it will, we're human, just stop, delete it, and replace it with this thought. Start blessing the things you want to experience. If you want wealth, bless the wealth you see around you. If you want health, bless the miraculous, life-giving water that makes up your breathing, living body.
So I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to meditate on as we wrap up this explainer and you step back into your day. Take a long, loving look at your inner landscape. Observe the currents and ask yourself, without needing any immediate answer, what would it take to let your river flow effortlessly today? Because you do hold the absolute power to thaw the ice, clear the stones, and become the magnificent, freely flowing force you were always meant to be.